9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, I don't know, 2, 1. And I think we're live.
We are, brother.
Hey, JJ, how you doing, buddy?
I am fantastic. How are you?
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very, very excited to continue our conversations with clients today. And this is Dave Saunders coming to you live from Madison+Main's worldwide headquarters at the corner of First and Cary. And today it is my high privilege and special honor to introduce to you the CEO of Dale Carnegie Training, Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, Metro Atlanta, and the entire third quadrant of the Gamma Galaxy.
I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got my sound effects. Oh, whoops, wrong one, JJ. Hold on.
That's 4th of July, brother. That's good. I love it.
JJ,
all right,
ladies and gentlemen.
Glad to be here, Dave. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we appreciate it. We have had a lot of fun working together over these many years now.
Too much that we deserve, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And I wanted to get a moment today to talk about you. I want you to introduce yourself. The boy from Roanoke, Virginia, who grew up to take over the Dale Carnegie training world. JJ, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to get into Dale Carnegie. As if most,
you hit a key point, man. Southwest Virginia boy, my entire life. Not only have I never lived outside of this state, I've never actually been outside this state for more than 2 weeks in my entire life. So very proud to be a Virginian. Got involved in Dale Carnegie 19 years and 6 months ago. In December, I'll be celebrating my 20th anniversary. Snuck into the company, into sales, grew up there, went to Roanoke College there, met my wife there, had our first child there, loved that area, and had an opportunity to come to Richmond back in 2008 and moved here. I can tell your audience, because they'll know, I'm in Goochland, Virginia. I'm underwater near the coral reef in Goochland. If you've never visited it, it's an extraordinary site visit. We just started to let people back in because of COVID, one diver at a time. It's actually, it doesn't look like it, but this is a part of the James River ecosystem right here. So,
I thought I saw a catfish swimming behind you a few seconds ago.
If you reach in under that right there,
they're very colorful. They're very colorful, these James River catfish.
You can do some good noodling back here.
As you mentioned, man, congratulations. Almost 20 years as CEO with Dale Carnegie Training. One of the things I love about the relationship between our companies at Madison+Main is before I met you, I had taken the basic Dale Carnegie course. I'm a fan. A lot of people don't know this. And one of my favorite stories is one of the most revered business people on the planet is Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has one thing on his wall. He doesn't have a picture of his wife. Okay. He doesn't have a picture of his kids. He doesn't have his college diploma. He has one thing at the Oracle of Omaha on his office, and that's his Dale Carnegie training certificate. And if that's good enough for multi-billionaire Warren Buffett, maybe that's something that other people ought to consider. Mm-hmm. And so at Madison+Main, as you know, every single employee at Madison+Main, regardless of what they've done over the last 5 years, I have sent them to Dale Carnegie Training for the basic skills course and other courses. Mm-hmm. When I first learned of Dale Carnegie, I thought, sales training, something like this. Mm-hmm. And as I've come to know it over the years, the difference between Dale Carnegie and sales training is a world of difference. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about what the basic Dale Carnegie course does, and then let's talk about some of the other things.
Sure. So we call it the foundation program. because it's not just the foundation to what we do. It's the foundation to how people should be human beings, effective communicators, human relations, good people skills, being confident, being an effective leader. And the one of the 5 drivers to me that's most important is having the right attitude. Because if you don't have the right attitude, if you're not controlling stress and managing worry in your life, those other 4 totally fall apart. Right. Imagine a world, if we lived in a world right now, Dave, where everyone have been through a Dale Carnegie course. We would be able to actually understand each other better, listen to each other better, and we wouldn't see a lot of the things that we see on the news anywhere in the world.
I think you're exactly right about that. I think one of the biggest misperceptions of Dale Carnegie as the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, the best-selling nonfiction book of all time, second to what, the Bible? Is that
correct?
Right?
Correct.
Translated into how many languages?
Oh, I mean, we're probably over 100 languages
100
right
languages.
Now. Yeah.
Global bestseller, not a New York Times bestseller, but a global bestseller. And we think of it in terms of business. Okay. Is it a business course or is it a life course?
It's the yin yang, Dave. How do you separate the two when it comes to our core nature as human beings? All those things I just mentioned to you. How do you separate communication at work from how you communicate at home? Now, I will say most of the people that we interact with do separate it, right? They're calm, collected, they're great at work, and then they go home and they beat their kids. Okay, I mean, come on. We know that's happening, right?
You know my kid, JJ.
I'm not pointing fingers.
And you know why I beat him.
Well, I know both your kids,
okay.
But you did say him, so I know who you're talking about.
Well, yes.
And yeah, so those are very, very connected. It's about being congruent. It's about being authentic. You should be treating your employees, your customers, like you would be your spouse, your children, your mom or dad, and you should always be treating them with the respect that they deserve. But we don't. We're fallible human beings, Dave. And where Dale Carnegie steps in is we hold a mirror up early in our process and say, what needs to be better here? We don't tell people what they need to do to be better, because that kind of says we're telling people they're broken. We don't feel like people are broken. We feel like people are who they are. But if you have anything in your life that needs to change for the better, let's do it. Because if you don't do something different, nothing's going to change.
When I first started sending people here, and so by the way, I know that Katie Rosberg,
Katie,
one of your graduates, is watching at home on the computer. So we just wanted to show that Katie was the outstanding performer, because this is on her wall. She's incredibly proud of this. The NCAA Final Four awards and the diploma and all the other things literally pushed over on the bookshelf. This is what's on Katie's office wall. We know when I first started doing this, I had some senior level folks and I had some junior level folks, and I said, you're all going, right, regardless of age, sex, income, job, whatever, you're all going to Dale Carnegie. All right. The young ones were like, hey, I had the opposite reaction. I thought the more senior staff would be like, yeah, I think this is a great idea. And the young people were like, why do I need to go for training? Right. Well, I had the opposite reaction. I had the young people saying, yes, we want training. We want to go and we love this and thank you. And then I had the older staff saying, been there, done that, don't need to go, that sort of thing. And then one of the things I could say is 100% of the people that I've sent through said, that was incredible, that was valuable, thank you. Do you come up against that in companies that say, I don't need to send senior staff, I'm only going to send the millennials?
Yep.
And
what happens is when they show up, some of the first things they say is, my boss needs to be in this. They need it more than I do. I mean, I'm not saying, like, for example, if all your folks came and said, Dave needs to take this course, then that would have been common to our ears, if you know what I mean.
So
possibly.
Without betraying anybody at my company, did they all say, I need to come in and retake the course?
Well, I wouldn't say all, because that would indict all of them. So let's just say all but a few, and then you can figure out maybe who did and who didn't.
Heads will roll. Heads will roll today. No, just kidding. I think, even, it's probably been way more than 20 years since I took the basic course, and I'm sure it's very different today. I should probably come in and do it. Speaking of the course, one of the things is you have training facility, and you've done this, for example, at Chesterfield
Mhm.
government complex. You've done this on site at large corporations. Uh, the in the last 110 days, right? If I'm keeping count,
It's been a while.
you can't get a group together to do a training. And you've had to pivot, which is my favorite word, and taking these kind of course materials online. Walk us through how COVID-19 affected your core business model.
And I want to preface this with, this is not a Dale Carnegie issue. It's everybody's dealing with what I'm about ready to share with you,
Sure.
which is, how do you stay connected as human beings when we physically can't do it? There's a great book I'm reading right now called Together. It was written by the Surgeon General that I think was, he left, I think, in 2015. I can't remember his name, but how we have this deep need to be around other people. And to your point, what are we doing virtually that we can't do in a classroom anymore? The good news for us is we started virtual instructor-led training. We call it Live Online 10 years ago. It was a foreign object to our industry because most things were webinars, or heaven forbid, asynchronous learning where you watch a video for an hour while you really do something else.
Yeah.
We put people into a room and coach them in a group environment. In early March, that was about 2% of our business, Dave. And I mean 2% of our business, 2% of the US business for Dale Carnegie.
Right.
Overnight, it became 100% of our business.
Wow.
So we had to scale that, not up internally because we had the scale internally, but we had to scale that to the market. And that's where you guys helped us. Like, okay, how do we get the word out that there's actually, believe it or not, really good training that you can take online with other people and learn something? And that's the number one thing we hear is, this is just common, it's not as good as getting face to face with someone, but it is really close and it's the best there is. It kind of reminds me of Bret Hart in the WWE. It's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Now it sounds arrogant, cocky, I know, but what that does is that drives us to have to be the best, because everybody's running there right now. Everybody's running to online. So we are pushing ourselves to continue to be the best in our customers' eyes at what we do.
You mentioned WWE, and I know that you were a fan of the Golden Boy, the Nature Boy.
Nature Boy. Thank you.
Ric Flair.
Woo!
Woo! So I got to ask you, following you with social media, what's the fascination with the Nature Boy?
I was 10 years old when my mom took me to the Roanoke Civic Center to watch the National Wrestling Alliance on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock to do TV tapings for 8 to 10 hours straight for the next month of TV. And I watched the Nature Boy come out dozens of times. We usually would sit in the second or third row, and I'd give Ric Flair a high five. I have old pictures. I don't have them right here of his Rolex. I actually had a zoomed in picture of his Rolex when he was walking out to the ring. And
Rolex,
this is 1984. Limousine riding. And I just had this affinity to want to be like Ric Flair. I wanted to be that popular. I want to be that fun. I want to be that exciting. Now, Rick's got some domestic issues, right? I mean, there's some baggage that comes along with that. But
so that's,
he's got the image.
That's one of the things is separating Ric Flair, the man. I mean, Ric Flair is a brand, right?
Yes.
That's not even his real name, right?
Correct.
And so at an early age, I guess you could say you learned bold brands win. Maybe is that a?
It's exact. He outbranded everybody else in pro wrestling for decades. I mean, you could argue he wasn't the most popular, Hulk Hogan and whatnot, but I tell you, no one really wanted to be like Hulk Hogan. Everybody wanted to be like Ric Flair. Taking
a brand like Dale Carnegie that has universal awareness and appeal in this day and age, and reinventing it in terms of making it relevant to today's audiences, what are some of the ways that we can work together to make Dale Carnegie that bold brand again, the one that stands out, the one that people are attracted to, the one that people want to be involved in?
It goes back to what I said earlier. A lot of things change over time, and everything is changing right now. What is not changing is human nature. Our desire to be connected to one another, our desire to be appreciated, our desire to be heard, our desire for justice. I mean, there's just so many things that as human beings has resided in us since Adam and Eve. What Dale Carnegie has always believed in is that transformation is possible. And that's where for me, that's where the boldness kicks in, because we're living in a world right now, Dave, where if you don't fit in, there's consequences, isn't there, right? Like you have to believe what I believe, you have to think what I think, you have to do what I say, or there are consequences. And what Dale Carnegie helps people do is transform in that boldness to step outside of that and say, I'm going to be me.
Right.
And it's crazy how harmful that can be in today's world. If you're too much of you, or you say it too loud, or you step out too far, that you'll be ostracized for it. It's not just in social communities; it's at work too, right? I mean, it's about playing by different rules.
So give me a taste, for example, for those who are not familiar with Dale Carnegie. Let's say the book, the Golden Rules, for example. So, and you probably know them by heart. Rule number 1:
don't criticize, condemn, or complain. We call that the 3 golden C's.
So with my children, I both gave them a copy of the book and a copy of the rules. And although the rules are not memorized, my son does often recite rule number 1 back to me. And I do believe it's probably one that I break a lot because of human nature. But I've found that when I come back to don't condemn, criticize, or complain, and I'm cognizantly aware of rule number 1, I communicate better with people. They feel better, and I feel better. And geez, that's a win-win-win, isn't it?
It is. And it's not just the outward expression of those 3, because we know what it looks like when someone criticizes, condemns, or complains when we hear it. And this is where a lot of people don't know this about what Dale wrote in that first chapter. It's more about what you do internally in your own head than you do outwardly.
Right.
Think, Dave, how often, this is for anybody listening right now, how quick did it take you when you woke up this morning to violate one of those in your head?
Yeah.
Can you count that fast, right?
So how many rules are there total?
So there's 30 human relations principles in how to win friends and influence people.
Okay. And so in rule number 1, it sounds really simple. I think it's rule number 1 for a reason, because it might be one of the most important, if not the most important, of Carnegie's rules.
You're right.
You said, imagine if we all had taken a basic Dale Carnegie Skills for Success course, right? And what a wonderful world we live in. Mm-hmm. I'll go one further. How about if everybody on social media followed rule number 1? Do not criticize, do not condemn, do not complain. Can you imagine what a vibrant community that we would have if we actually spoke, listened, and tried to understand?
Well, first, I think it would get quiet for a while. And then it's that awkward silence you have where someone says, well, I guess we got to talk about something here, don't we? It starts to fill the room. So and here's an example. I had a participant one time. So this is in session 2 of a Dale Carnegie course, when they get the principle, and the guy stopped me in the tracks and he said, you know what? I don't even need to hear the rest, because if I can do principle number 1, that will free up so much time in my day. I can do anything else I want. And I think if it was on social media, it would be the same thing. As what would social media be filled with? Maybe more ads. But I especially recently, I'm seeing a lot of people outwardly post the only thing on Facebook is negative. That's it.
From a perspective of Madison+Main, we'd be okay if there were more ads on Facebook. It would be perfectly okay with us, and we would love to make them. And if anybody's listening, we would love to place them for you on Facebook. However, I
Shameless
think
plug.
you're right. I think that human nature would not allow such a utopian world. In the end, do we have to say, yes, we as individuals can make a difference, for example, if we follow some of these rules?
Yes.
And is it rule number 4? Is it smile? What's the other?
5. That's number 5.
Excuse me. Rule number 5, smile.
Mm-hmm.
Simplest rule out of the 30, right?
Yep.
Smile. And the first time we did Convos with clients a couple of weeks ago, Derek, who's with me, who's a graduate there, Kent, looking at me, whatever else, and they're like, "You forgot to smile."
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm forgetting rule number 5.
Yep.
So you're going through, let's say that you're a business owner or you're a professional and you are young, you are midlife, you are changing careers, you are whatever else. What's going to be a trigger point? What's going to be a good candidate for someone to come in if they're unfamiliar with Carnegie?
The best candidate that we have is someone that has a vision. They have things they want to accomplish in their life. They have goals. They may not have these written down, and they may not be formal, Dave, but in their heart, they see themselves in a different place in life, in their company, 1 to 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. And they either have realized or they are realizing some things about me need to change if when I get there, I'm going to be successful. Because think about this. You're very much designed for who you are today. You're designed for the relationships you have. You're designed for the job that you do. If these things are going well, guess what? You're where you're supposed to be. Anyone with ambition, just a little bit of ambition, knows that when I get there, it's going to require something different of me. And I'm not sure if I have it or have it all. And I was talking to a gentleman this morning. He's getting ready to start the Dale Carnegie course Monday night. Shameless plug. We're doing a face-to-face Dale Carnegie course in Richmond, Virginia, starting Monday night.
I know. I've got 2 people in that.
You got 2 people in it.
Yes.
And he made the statement to me, there are things that I know I'm good at and the things that I know I'm not good at. Now, most of the population will not do anything related to what they're not good at. They'll stop there. What we help people do is go engage in those things they're not good at to get better at those things, to turn them from a weakness into a strength if it's a critical factor for success on where they want to go. And it's not just the individual, it's also the leader in the organization. That we often get people from business owners, CEOs that say, I've got a senior leadership team that we're doubling over the next 5 years. They need to change some of their leadership behaviors so that we can keep them in 5 years when we're there.
So I know that you're involved with the Virginia Council of CEOs. I have the pleasure of being on the roundtable with you. I know you're a former chairman of the organization. When you're talking to CEOs around the state of Virginia, and you're saying, yes, you've had to change things in the last 3 or 4 months. Mm-hmm. Your people are more important than they ever were. Mm-hmm. And they're like right now saying, well, we've had to pivot. We've had to change operations, or we had to reopen, or whatever else. Now things are getting back to normal. And really, I need to do one of the following. I need to come in, okay, and do a leadership one-on-one thing. I need to send my number 2, okay, or I need to send some of my frontline team. What should they do first? Just generally speaking, should it be the CEO? Should it be the number 2 that's managing things, or should it be really more the frontline folks right now that need this in the age of COVID?
So one of the things, if we get the opportunity to do it, that if you were a CEO and you asked me that question, putting yourself in that position, I would say the first thing we should do is what we call a business advancement conversation, where we get everyone, or as many people as we can, into a workshop, whether it be live online or face-to-face, and talk about the future of the company. And what happens, Dave, people start to raise their hand and they say, I'm unprepared for the future, because who you want to invest in first are the ones that A, want it the most, and B, will contribute the most once you give it to them.
Right.
We often see this haphazard, oh, I need to send Bob because he's a big jerk to too many people. Well, let's be frank, Bob probably should have been fired 5 years ago. We're not sure training's going to help Bob keep his job. So if you're strategic about it, then you can really decide who goes into what. Because I should add to this, we have something called a learning journey, where the CEO should know over the next 3 to 5 years what they're doing to develop themselves. Right. The number 2 should have a learning journey. Your frontline leader should have a learning journey. Everyone should know what they're working on next. That's critical. They should all know that, and how the company wants to support it.
I know what you mean by the Bobs. I've run into them. I've actually had a couple of them as clients, but they're no longer around. Hey, I was thinking about this too. One of the exciting things that happened to you guys in the last year is expansion, right, from Virginia into tell me about what's happening down in Atlanta right now.
Yeah. So you rattle off a bunch of states whenever we first started the call.
Yeah.
So I'm the franchise owner for Virginia, West Virginia, and 3 counties in Ohio. My neighbor, Alan, he is the franchise owner for Tennessee and parts of Indiana, and probably other states I'm not even familiar with. We partnered to buy Dale Carnegie of Atlanta on January 1st of this year. It was the best of times and the worst of times to buy a new business. And we've merged all of our operations together. And it's amazing the strength and the stability and the shoring up of business that we have as a result of being one large, and we're now the largest, kind of the largest franchise, one of the largest franchises in the United States and even the world as a result of this.
So one of the things, we advise companies on, for example, is a recession, for example, is an opportunity to gain market share. I've said that for a long time. I've said that for 30 years. Don't be afraid. Madison+Main during the last recession grew. I've had clients that have grown during the last recession. I have clients that are making bold moves right now that want to grow during this one because they believe that, quite honestly, it's going to be pretty short-lived. The job support, the Wall Street, the economy, the fundamentals and things are there that says that this economy is going to move back. Mm-hmm. In terms of going forward with opportunity, gaining the market share and that sort of stuff. Do you believe that as businesses recover and the attention turns away from masks and personal protective equipment, and we start getting back to the phase 4 and normality, that people, for example, in a new work environment are going to need more professional development?
Mm-hmm. I think of when you're talking, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Fortune magazine, and I know they're more than a magazine now, but they've been using the word reopening boldly, that companies have to reopen boldly if you're not just going to survive, but thrive, which is why we're doing an in-person class on Monday night, Dave. And we could wait till next year. I may not financially be able to wait, but we could say, oh, we're not ready. Or we can be bold about it, right? And that's my question to any company. Where's your boldness?
That's a great point. And if you have that article, send it to us and we'll pop it in the link today. Also, Derek is with me, and if is there a link that you have for Monday night? Anybody can get in, or is it full? Is that capped?
Go to DaleCarnegieRichmond.com.
Dale Carnegie.
And it'll take you directly to a form that you fill out, and when you fill out that form with your name, it'll come directly to me. So that's the easiest way to get more information on that.
And then
DaleCarnegieRichmond.com.
Let's say that they're not ready Monday night, but they want to do something in a couple of weeks. They can find another course in there?
Absolutely. We're running them all the time, live online and in person.
On a personal note, I know that Andrew from my office is coming in Monday night. Okay. And who else is coming in Monday night? Molly Banks is coming in Monday night. I want you to give a special assignment to Andrew. I want you to tell him to bring in a piece of artwork and hang it behind him. Okay. And during the entire course, I appreciate that. And then he will get that.
This isn't one of the ones that he painted of you, is it? When
No,
you were sprawled out on the couch?
that's Derek's
Okay. All
obsession
right.
is me in the Dave post.
I didn't know if it was that one or not.
Is about 5 or 6. Hey man, one of the things I wanted to say was that coming up on you always crush it. So first off, there's my there's my noisemaker. The crowd is applauding you. Great job on that. We don't have any payment, JJ, for doing convos with clients other than our eternal gratitude and my promise to not criticize, condemn, or complain
The best way you can
or
pay
say
me.
anything derogatory about your COVID beard.
I got a lot of hair
Let
now.
you know that you have won a canned ham from us. This is the Hormel Family Tradition Water Ham Added Deluxe.
Do you know why this is a special award for me, Dave? Because
Okay.
Hormel is a strategic customer of Dale Carnegie, specifically the plant in Atlanta, Georgia that makes pre-cooked bacon and spicy chili is a huge Dale Carnegie user. We love Hormel at Dale Carnegie.
Well,
Love it.
and as a personal note, I do too. But I bought a bunch of these at the beginning of the coronavirus, and I've eaten several, and I had some extras, and so I wanted to give one to you. I'm going back to the MREs. I'm going to put those back in the closet. I appreciate and JJ, it's a word of warning. You want to keep this refrigerated. All right.
I understand.
But hey, thank you today. Any
Thanks for
words
having
of
me.
wisdom as we hit the 30-minute mark? Any words of wisdom for folks right now? They've got they're 110 days into isolation and quarantine and a new environment and the new normal, and they're wearing masks and they're this and that, whatever. What's the word of advice from the guru of professional development in Richmond?
Well, I'm going to have to steal this one, Dave, but everyone listening should remember you should ride Space Mountain because it might be the oldest ride in the park, but it still has the longest line. Woo!
JJ White, you're always the best, man. Thank you.
Woo!
Woo! I hope to see you in person. Hold on.
It'll be soon. See you, buddy.
Hold on. And when I do, you're getting smooched. I'll see you.
Later, man.
Thanks.
Bye now.